Sometimes court is a bitch. And in this case, the judge issues a blistering opinion against Donald Trump policy of deporting pro-Palestinian students. Judge ruling that non-citizens have the same free speech rights as U.S. citizens under the First Amendment. This is a federal judge ruling that the Trump administration's policy of detaining and deporting foreign scholars over their pro-Palestinian views violates the U.S. Constitution. And it was intentionally designed to chill free speech rights. The case was brought by the National American Association of University Professors, AAUP. It's Harvard, Rutgers, New York University chapters, and the Middle East Studies Association, all who came together following the arrest and detention of several non-citizen students and scholars who've spoken out for Palestinian rights. It was a 161-page ruling issued just late yesterday. William G. Young, he's a Ronald Reagan appointee.
God, he must
called
be
the
really
case.
old. How old is that guy?
He called the case perhaps the most important ever to fall within the jurisdiction of his court. This case squarely presents, this is from his ruling, this case squarely presents the issue whether non-citizens lawfully present here in the United States actually have the same free speech rights as the rest of us. The court answers this constitutional question unequivocally. Yes, they do. No law means no law, a reference to the First Amendment stipulation that Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. No one's freedom of speech is unlimited, of course, but these limits are the same for both citizens and non-citizens alike, the judge wrote. They were accused, the government was, of running an illegal ideological deportation policy. That's what was being argued by that consortium of academics and activists that I mentioned. That's because of the two executive orders in January targeting non-citizens who, quote, espouse hateful ideology. The government said no such policy existed. They said in court filings it was the product of the plaintiff's imagination, and that officials had made determinations about each individual on a case-by-case basis. They also said, this is the government, that they claim the authority to deport non-citizens who have committed no crimes, but whose presence it deems poses a threat to U.S. foreign policy. So the judgment's important, and during the trial, the government tried to block the release of a lot of documents detailing their processes and reasons for revoking student visas. And several State Department officials testified in court that they've been instructed by higher-ups to compile allegations about the individuals targeted. They even relied on dossiers from the right-wing Canary Mission, which is a secretive pro-Israel group dedicated to doxing thousands of those pro-Palestinian scholars. The case was filed in March, went to trial in July, and during the 2 weeks of testimony, both citizen and non-citizen scholars spoke of the chilling effect caused on campuses across the country. But this Reagan-appointed federal judge now ruling against the Trump administration and the government in favor of the dissenting voices on campus. A judge has suspended Trump's plan to eliminate hundreds of Voice of America jobs. The Voice of America, as you know, is one of the substantial ways in which many American cultural voices are heard across the globe. And a federal judge is agreeing to temporarily suspend the administration plan to eliminate hundreds of jobs at the agency that oversees VOA, Voice of America. I mean, originally it was formed, VOA, to counter Nazi propaganda during World War II, but it's existed as a pretty robust media arm of the U.S., not an expensive part of the government particularly, but it was, again, in the huge DOGE cuts. They took a chainsaw to that as well.
Isn't it
U.S. District
Carrie Lake? That right?
Yeah, Carrie Lake seemed to relish the opportunity to eliminate 532 jobs, and they are saying, the judge is, Judge Royce Lamberth in Washington, that they cannot, Carrie Lake and her agency, implement this reduction in force, eliminating 532 jobs for full-time government employees. So she, having announced the job cuts, is now going to have to reverse field. Lamberth, the judge, also previously ruled that President Trump's Republican administration must restore VOA programming to levels commensurate with its statutory mandate to serve as consistently reliable and authoritative sources of news. He even blocked Carrie Lake from removing Michael Abramowitz as VOA's director. So it was a pretty broad judgment made. VOA lives on. James Comey. The case jeopardizes Americans' free speech rights, says this retired judge, and more retired judges like him, 42 of them, in fact, wrote an open letter. In the letter, former federal and state judges warned that the rights and liberties of every American are in grave danger. This is a quote from the letter, obviously. As President Donald Trump continues to corruptly abuse the power of his office by directing the United States Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to target his critics and his perceived political enemies for investigation and criminal prosecution. All Americans have an obligation as citizens of this great country to speak out against this unprecedented attack on our freedom of speech and to demand that Donald Trump's attacks on our right to speak freely without fear of being persecuted and prosecuted by our government must stop now. Again, it's a mix of retired federal and state level judges, 10 of whom were either appointed by Republicans or elected Republicans. So the law is beginning to take stock of what's happening and finally beginning to clap back a bit. And it's SCOTUS that broke back on Donald Trump most recently. I believe that decision was just handed down, wasn't it, Kim? On his controversial firing or attempted firing of the Fed governor. Is Kim still with the show?
I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Lisa Cook?
Yes, of course. That's Lisa Cook who I'm talking about. Tell us that story.
I don't have the story.
What?
Well, Lisa Cook, the Fed governor, she was suing to get her job back.
The Supreme Court blocked Trump from firing her, and that happened today, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Is that the reason we don't have it? Because it happened today?
Yeah, it's really. Yeah, we only do yesterday's news here.
Well,
on
I
the
just
Mark
don't know
Thompson
why
show.
it's not in the show, Kim. That's all I'm trying to say.
Sorry.
Oh, I thought we talked about it before. Again, at the meeting, we're going to have a longer meeting.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
The Supreme Court saying that it's true, it just happened, that Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook can remain in her job for now, announcing it will take up this case over President Donald Trump's attempt to remove her from the central bank. The court will hear arguments in the case in January, and its temporary ruling will last until then, they're saying. Lower courts allowed Cook to keep her position. The Trump administration had asked the high court to overturn those decisions and allow Trump to remove Cook immediately. The high court decision to hear the case sets up a showdown over the independence of the central bank, which, of course, setting interest rates that Trump isn't always happy with. And they're setting those rates to essentially to tame inflation and to manage sort of monetary policy. The case could have major ramifications for businesses and consumers. And this provisional ruling will allow Cook to keep her job, and it will signal, at least from some of the justices, a hesitation regarding executive power and the president's aggressive campaign to oust a federal governor and gain tighter control over the Fed. It is a significant decision.
Yeah. And I don't know what Katsadamas said about it, but we'll ask him about it tomorrow.
Yeah, very good. Exactly. Former federal prosecutor David Katz will comment. That is Law and Disorder.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.